Hey friends, Susan here with Pumpkin Hill Stampers. So it's Friday. So here we are in the Stampin' Show and Tell Time group on Facebook. Now, in the previous 2 weeks, I've kind of done a card review project video and then I've done our Friday follow along, but today I'm going to combine the two of them. So first I want to talk to you about the projects that we did on the blog this week for our Mystery Case Challenge. We were up to Mystery Case Challenge number 24 and we were doing a 2-in-1 one-sheet wonder challenge. So the idea there is that we started with a 6x6 piece of designer series paper, okay, and then I gave a pattern for cutting it up, and this was the pattern. So I took it and I divided it in half, measured out 3 by 5 1/4, and I used that panel to make this card here with a large scenic scene. And then I had 3 pieces that I was able to cut out with my Stitched So Sweetly die, right? Because I wanted to use that for my second card. So I was able to get 3 of those, and by putting that on my graph paper first, I knew I was going to have a 6 by 3/4 inch scrap piece, which I then used on the inside of my card. Okay, so very little scrap actually left over from my starting 6 by 6 piece. So I started with this piece, I measured out, kind of planned out in my head what size panels I wanted to use, then I cut it, then I crafted the 2 cards. So this one I shared on Monday and this one I shared on Tuesday. Then I was looking at my pattern thinking, okay, so is that really going to work for other cards? And I decided to take a second piece of the same Feels Like Frost package and say, okay, can I reduplicate these cards with a different sheet? Because these are 6 by 6 packages, so you usually get 4 of each pattern, but you have lots of different patterns. So this was another one. So I made these 2 cards, and I shared the video in my customer group the other day. But basically I took the same pattern, cut my paper the same way, and I almost made the same cards, only this time I used the scenic scene cut up into 3 pieces on this card. And this one I used the foil side as my big panel, and I added some more embellishments with an extra die and some extra punches with my sprig punch. And then there's my inside. So as you can see, I was able to duplicate the idea with a different sheet of paper and come up with very similar patterned cards. So those were the cards I shared on the blog. Okay, then a few weeks ago I was making other cards featuring patterned paper and I shared them on my blog. These come from the Forever Fern paper. Okay, so this one I die cut and I used different layers of embossing folders to create that thank you card. And then this one I had just a plain cut strip, no fancy die cuts, just a piece of paper layered with some embossing, and I used a strip on the inside there. So I thought, okay, well I could have gotten those 2 pieces out of a 6 by 6, but what would have been left over? And that's what I'm going to show you today on our follow along project. So if I flip my grid paper over, so I've taken these 2 cards, right, which I've shared on the blog. One was Thursday, one was Friday. This piece here, the large rectangular Stitch So Sweetly, I would have had to get out of a 3 by 4 1/4 piece. And then this piece was actually a 4 by 3 piece, but I've cut it down, so I'm using 2.5 inches on the front and 1/2 inch on the inside. Okay, so if I take that out of my 6 by 6 section, I'm left with this long 6 inch by 1 3/4 section and just a little bit of 1/4 inch scrap here that maybe would actually be scrap. So here's the paper I would have started with. I could have gotten these 2 sections out of this piece and I would have had a long section left. Okay, everybody following? I hope so. So with that long section, I can make them the card. Okay, so here's my section for this card. Now I'm going to do a simple stamping project for you today, right? I try to do our follow along project so that any stamper, whether you're brand new or whether you're an avid stamper who has all the gadgets and gizmos in your room, you could make these cards. So I've taken my 6 inch by 1 3/4. I've actually cut it down to 1 1/2, and then I've divided it. See that? I've got 4 sections now. So here's a really simple card. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put these two here, and I'm going to put these two here. So I'm kind of separating them, and I'm going to line them up and make a patterned grid on my paper. Now you could cut them up more if you wanted to. If you wanted to separate those and have 8 sections, you could do that. If you wanted to keep it solid as 2 sections, you could just put 2 sections on. There's lots of opportunities here. You could have cut them into squares and had 4 squares. So however you want to take that pattern paper and then divide it up to make another card, or you could have left it just as a strip and just put a strip on like I did for this card here. I just put a strip across, right, and used some added color to do my card. But this is what I thought I would do with you today. So before I actually put those down though, I want to do my stamping so that I can make sure I put them in the right position. So I'm going to use stamps from the Best Year stamp set, and I like this one a lot because there's thank you, there's birthday, there's a happy Father's Day, right? That's sometimes hard to get kind of by itself. We've got a hello, we got a hey you did it, hip hip hooray, which can be like a congratulations card. And we also have a Christmas greeting. So I'm going to use the thank you greetings today. And let me pull this one out. So I've got thank you for all that you do. Ooh, that's the wrong one. And this one. Every thoughtful thing you do. Okay. So I need to put those on my blocks. So I'm just going to put them down, press my block to it. So now my stamps are ready to go. I'm going to open my ink. I'm using Pretty Peacock because it's a coordinating color for the paper here. But if you only had basic black ink, that's fine. Use black. Use what you have. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. I'm going to stamp it right about here, because now I've got some space below and above it, but I can position all those pieces on the top. So I'm going to move that out of the way just so I don't get any ink on my card. Now this is where I use my grid paper. Okay, so this is going to help me line up my pieces. So I know I want about 1/8 of an inch spacing between them. So if I put this on my grid paper, I have my center line here, so I visually can see my center line. So I'm going to start with this one. So I'm just going to flip this over, add some adhesive, and I'm going to put this one down. Okay, now I'm going to go to the other side. So from the same distance from the center, approximately, right? Nobody's perfect, approximately. And I can kind of gauge my top and bottom from the one next to it. And then I just work my way out, creating my pattern as I go. So you don't need any fancy stamp and emboss machine. You would just need a paper cutter and a little bit of ink and some paper. You know, a sentiment set that is multi-useful, and you can have a gorgeous card, nice and simple. Now let me do my inside greeting. And there we go. Simple stamped card, right? Simple stamped. Now, I thought I would do a second one for you because I know a lot of you do have the cut and emboss machine. And I really do love our Stitch So Sweetly dies. So this time I have a second panel that would have been that 6 by 3/4. And what I did was I cut two of these out of there. And I'm basically going to make the same card, only this time I'm going to put them side by side like this. See? Basically the same card, but two very different looks. And one's a very simple stamped card where you don't need a lot of extra things in your collection. And this one, you would need the stamp and emboss machine, cut and emboss machine I should say, and the dies, right? But I use those dies all the time. So a nice set of dies can go a long way in making your projects just stepped up a little bit. So again, I'm going to stamp my sentiment. Now this time I'm even going to put these up onto some dimensionals. Okay, some of us call these pop dots, some of them call them dimensionals. They just lift either your image or your paper up just a little bit. So here, instead of using my tape runner, I'm just using the dimensionals. So again, I'm using my grid just so I can kind of space these on either side of that center line. Try to get my tops and bottoms even. There we go. And again, I just stamped my inside reading and my card is finished. So this one I didn't even need my tape runner, I just used dimensionals. So again, a simple card, but stepped up just a little bit. So there's our Friday follow along. Alright guys, so you can do a lot with just 6x6 pieces of our pattern paper. Okay, so here, yes, I used the same size to make both of those, but these 3 cards could all come from one piece of 6x6 paper. And these cards, like I showed before, these were Monday's projects, and then these were the ones that I duplicated for my customer group, and these 2 only came from 6x6 pieces of pattern paper. Okay, so go enjoy your pattern paper, cut it up, use it, segment it, make multiple cards, and enjoy them, right? We all love our pattern paper, so go and use them and enjoy them. Next week on the show and tell, stay tuned because I'm going to do more cards using pattern paper, and they're going to be quick and easy cards so that you can make all your holiday cards, right? Impress all your friends and family with your own hand-stamped cards. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. I will see you again next week for another follow along project, and I will post the photos and the links back to my blog post, so if you want more details on any of these projects, you can find them easily. All right, everybody, bye-bye.